You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Pastor Kellen Roggenbuck. I almost messed it up there. Kellen, glad to have you with us, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I am a United Methodist pastor. I serve in a church in Jefferson, Wisconsin. And I'm a ukulele enthusiast. I like long walks on the beach. I'm an Aries, in case you're wondering. Been growing a beard since I could. So 18, 19 years old. But so I hit a couple categories that makes me good for this show. But I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're certainly glad to have you. I wish I could have grown a beard at 19. I was like 24.
I had
before mine came in.
I had the chin strap thing. I didn't like it. I didn't like this. Like, this bugged the heck out of me. So I did the chin strap, like the Amish chin strap looking thing. So
I had the good Doug Fields goatee for a while. So cool.
In my senior year of high school, I grew like really big mutton chops because I couldn't get anything on my chin.
Yeah.
It was not a good look. People did not respond well to it.
The track coach bought me a razor for my graduation present because I refused to shave. And you know how that is, like, as a teenager, you refuse to play by the rules, and like there was nothing he could do with me, and I just grew these like huge, nasty mutton chops. And then when I went to college, I just like let that go down and extend out to the handlebar thing. We're glad you have it on your show. If we understand you correctly, you have some books that you have put together, and so let's talk about those books.
Yeah, so I have 2 children's books that are beard themed. About 2.5 years ago, I had my first one published, and I should back up. My son, who just turned 4, when he was born and very young, we would read these books, and if you have a young person that you read to, it's like we'd read them 1,000 times. Every night it was the same books. And some of them were just not good and not fun, and but he would keep wanting to do them. So I just thought, I wonder if I could do any better. I feel like at this point anyone could do better than some of the stuff. And along the same time, my son was really into like touching and holding my beard, and like that was a thing for him. So I put together this book. My dad has a beard. It's my first one. And I thought, this is kind of fun. I think my son would like it. And then a friend of mine who is also a publisher saw this and was like, man, we need to fast track this. It's almost Father's Day. We need to get this out there. People will love this. And so we did that. And it's kind of been a wild ride since then. But now I have a second book that's called Great Beards of History that just came out earlier this year.
So what great beards of history do you include in your said book?
Well, I don't want to give them all away because I want you to buy the book. But like Abraham Lincoln's in there. And so we have some contemporaries too. So it's not just Abraham Lincoln or some of the older people. We have Mr. T makes an appearance in there as sort of the inventor of the Mohawk beard combination. So he's a historical figure in the book. We actually have a bearded woman in there, which I think is pretty cool.
That is cool.
That's so like as many demographics as we could check off is in there. So like you can really identify with this book. My first book was written with myself and my son in mind. So like if you're a white guy with a brunette beard like I am, you have brown hair, you'd really identify with this book. But the second one has this kind of broad spectrum. Frederick Douglass is in there as another historical figure with the beard. Again, I don't want to give them all away because I want you to really enjoy discovering them as you turn, but try to have some fun with it.
Well, and that's what I find fascinating is I've got 3 kiddos, and so reading children's books for the last 12 years or so has been a regular occurrence in our house, and some of them are just, God, they're rough. uh,
Well, it
but
just makes you wonder, like, who read this and thought, man, I'll bet kids would love to read this. But I guess they're right. My son reads them all the time. I just can't do it.
right. Well, and I think that's what's beautiful about people like you who are sitting down and going, you know what? What if we put something together that's fun for both the parents and the kid, something we can all identify in? Because if it's fun for the kid, that's great. But if the parents aren't enjoying reading it, they're not going to sit down and read with their kids because it's just going to be it's going to feel like a chore, right? And especially when you get into it just, if we were talking to somebody the other day and they were like, well, we find that all the time we're changing the words, we're changing things in these books, what that we read to our kids. Right. And so if we're constantly having to work when we're doing it, it's about putting that quality material out that, hey, I want to read this. Hopefully other people will.
Yeah. Well, you try to remember how did I shorten this book the last time I read it? So, cause my kid's gotten too smart for his own good, because he'll be like, no, you skipped a part. And I was like, come on, man. I just want to get done with this.
Right.
So like he's remembering the book from time. So yeah, that really is a goal is to keep it brief and fun for everyone that's involved.
Yeah. So what's the process like to writing a children's book? How does that go?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I really I've done these books and one non-beard related book, but each of them has kind of been different, and I can only speak to my own experience because I've only I'm not part of that world for the most part. It's more of a hobby because I'm a pastor by day, and but as soon as I had the idea. It all sort of fell together. I do my own illustrations, and so that's made it a lot easier. So some of it, it's like I'm writing ideas, but then like making illustrations that I think would be funny, and then adding text to them. It was a really fun experiment to do the Beards of History, because like I'm just at this point like Googling like famous people with beards, and then like who are people that I could put in this book that are historically relevant, but also have like a fun fact about them, because it's, I try to have, it's like, this is who this person is. They have a beard, and here's some wild fact about them. It was a lot more legwork than I thought it would be, but it's, fun to the point. I also get a lot of people being like, is that true? Is that true about this person? It's like, well, you Google it. I'm not, I think so. And this is like, so the very first page, for example, is on Blackbeard. It says, Blackbeard was a pirate with a black beard, and he also hated pickles. Like someone said, did Blackbeard actually hate pickles? And it's like, well, I haven't found any evidence to say that he loved pickles. So yes, I think he hated pickles. Prove me wrong. This is a super fun process of doing research and stuff like that. But I think if you were to do it, the big thing is start with a good story or a good premise and go from there. Find a good illustrator and put something together. But I sort of fell into publishing. It wasn't what I was setting out to do. Yeah, it's. I think for each person, it's a little bit different.
Certainly. I love that idea. One of my kids' favorite, my oldest daughter, we got to go see Brad Meltzer, who writes big kind of conspiracy theory books, adventure books around Washington, and then he gets to write some comic books for DC. But he also has a line of children's books that he's taken, Abraham Lincoln and Gandhi and those folks, but told a different story about them. Good things, but told the story that we don't always hear. And so I love that idea of taking Blackbeard and being like, I don't see any evidence that he loved pickles. Let's tell a different story, because we all know the story of Abraham Lincoln, or at least we assume we do. And so let's tell a little bit different one. Let's tell another story. I think there's something really fun in that for me, and I think for other people of, hey, we're going to pick a book up that is fun and that's going to share another narrative, share another story about somebody that we're maybe or maybe not familiar with.
So I take it then.
My sort of.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, sort of my dream for this book is that it pops up in someone's bibliography for like a research report, like someone's writing a research report on Blackbeard, and like just as a fun fact throws in that he doesn't like pickles, but then like sources my book.
Yeah,
I think that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
And that probably has happened for some kid that's written a like had to write, you know, like the school little bibliography things that we have to do when we're in school. I'm sure someone has found your book in a library or something and used it, and maybe we can get this out there where if someone has, we'd like to see a picture of it in your documents. That way Kellen can feel like his life has come to full circle. Yeah,
that's all I want, is some sort of validation in that way.
Yeah.
That's all we can ask for, right?
All right.
Yeah, and so we take it then. Probably the next logical step for you as a pastor would be to write the great Beards of Theology, and you know, I mean, there's a few. You know, Spurgeon comes to mind. I mean, there's a few that come to mind that you could have some fun with that too. And some circles would appreciate that. You know, not that all would, but
yeah, for sure. Well, that's the thing is like. The nice thing about the Bible is like, unless it's stated otherwise, I just kind of assume every man in the Bible has, right? So I think it'd be to hit a lot of the stories that I love from the Bible. So that's really a question I get often, is like, what's the next Beard book? And so I'm bouncing through a couple ideas, but I do like that one.
That'd be fun. If we had a Bearded Theologian publishing company, we would definitely
we'd be fast tracking that for you.
Although it'd be required that we're either page 1 or the last page.
Yes, I mean that would make logical sense. So you know, these books are out. Where can we find these books? Like, can we find them on Amazon and that's our place, or do we have to contact you personally and you hand draw them for everybody and hand write them for everybody? Is that?
I do. It takes forever. It just, you know, my hand has gotten much stronger over all these years copying them down. But you can find, it's easiest to find them on Amazon. You can also get them at barnesandnoble.com. You know, every once in a while, it's a weird glitch in Amazon around Father's Day and around Christmas when the sales are really high. They quote unquote run out. Which they don't, because it's my publisher prints on demand kind of a thing. But every once in a while there's sort of a glitch in the system. So if it ever happens that way with Amazon, you can run over to barnesandnoble.com and order it there for the same price. But Amazon's, I think, the easiest.
Yeah. Well, and the wonderful thing about when we have writers and authors and folks like you on to promote your stuff is go and buy the book, one, or buy both of them or all of them, whatever you can get your hands on, but review them, give them 5 stars.
Yes.
And because that helps get the attention of more people. It helps get it out there more, just those 5 stars and reviews, and that's we know very well that that's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so interesting, you know. It was almost, I don't know, it was 6 months ago we were celebrating that first book's 1,000th sale, right? You know, we've sold over 1,000. I think we're up to about 1,500 on just that book alone. My Dad Has a Beard. We have like 37 reviews. You know, it's like, so there are literally over 1,000 people who have gotten this book and not reviewed it. And so, like, you know, and if you're listening to this and you've gotten the book, even if you wanted, you know, give it 5 stars if it earns 5 stars in your book, but review it. Because, like, I want people to know what they're getting into. And if you loved it, tell someone. That's
so my new shameless thing has been is that if we had somebody that's been on our show and I go review their book, I also put a link to our podcast in it just so like people will find us. But then also like, hey, this is actually, you know, they've actually a legitimate good book because, well, they've been on a podcast, and then they, you know, it's the whole other spiral that I know that if we can send them down, we can definitely do. And so, you know, we encourage people to do that. Is that when, you know, like with our podcast, we encourage people to give us 5 stars, and even if you want to like bash us in our review, please feel free to do so. We just want the 5 stars because that's what matters. You know, Kellen, do you have anything else you want to share with us today?
You know, it's been a pleasure. I'm hoping that me being on here, and then, you know, when this goes live and we get to publicize it, we can get some new, you know, bearded folks. That's the crazy thing about writing these books, is I've gotten to be kind of a part of the bearded community. Like, I've been on a couple other podcasts, a couple other, you know, sort of live shows. You know, now I'm Facebook friends with like world beard competitors, which is bananas. You know, people who have beards down to their knees and stuff, like awesome people. But like, there's this really cool network, and to be involving bearded theologians into that is super exciting. So I thank you guys for the opportunity, and you know, have me back often and speak fondly of me when I'm not here.
And we just encourage you to write more books, and so we can invite you on, because you're more than welcome to come back at any time. And so you want to give us the name of the books again, so that way we make sure that we have those clearly, because Zach and I will butcher them if we try to remember what they were off the top of our heads. So go ahead and let readers know, or listeners know, what they're getting in, what they're going to go buy after this.
Yep. So my first book is called My Dad Has a Beard, and the second one is called Great Beards of History. Both of them are available on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And if you contact Bearded Theologians and you want a signed copy, we can see if we can make that happen.
Sweet. And we'll make sure that we'll get that out to you. And we'll even link it in our post for this week's podcast. And so you'll be able to find that there. Just in case you're driving and listening, you can find it there in the link of our podcast. And so, Kellen, we thank you for your time.
Pull over and write it down. If you're driving, listen, right now, look it up right now.
Let's be honest. They're not going to pull over. They're just going to write it down.
Please do it safely. You know, safely. We want to encourage safety while driving, you know, because we don't want to find ourselves in a crazy situation. So for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
We hope you've enjoyed the conversations that we've had today on the Bearded Theologians Beardcast, and we'd encourage you to continue those conversations online at beardedtheologians.com or on our Facebook page. We also hope that you pick up a couple of coffee mugs to satisfy your coffee mug collection. Have a good day.